as beleaguered and bedraggled as I am, staying up 36 hours for a 12-hour flight back to London from Riyadh, at least I haven't woken up in the Deontay Wilder business this morning. For the second time in 6 months, he has blown the mega money, overdue boxing bonanza that was supposed to be the fight with Anthony Joshua, the fight that should have happened when AJ was the WBA, IBF and WBO world champion, and he was the long-reigning WBC world champion. Turki Alalshikh, the kingmaker in Saudi, still wanted to make that fight, even though neither men hold any of the belts these days. And in December, he put them both on in the same evening. All they had to do was come through their respective tests. AJ wiped out Otto Wallin in sensational fashion with new trainer Ben Davison, and Wilder blew the plan by getting outpointed by a spectacularly skilled Joseph Parker working with Andy Lee. 6 months later, the old bronze bomber gets another crack. All you've got to do this time, old chum, is beat 41-year-old Zhilei Zhang. And this time he turned up and managed to box even worse. He promised everyone he was the bronze bomber again. He wanted a body on his record. He was back and bigger and badder than ever. He was rubbish. Beaten up and stopped inside 5 rounds, and he promised everyone before that he would retire. The fallout from that, though, is that Wilder is washed in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and will not get another fight out here. And the man who looks like he's jumped to the front of that queue for that Anthony Joshua fight is now Daniel Dubois. It wasn't too long ago that big questions were being asked about his... He'd shown potential, he'd fulfilled his potential, but his willingness to go into the trenches to get victories. He'd lost to Alexander Usyk, which is no shame for anyone, but the manner in which he did it, taking a knee after shipping one too many jabs, was embarrassing, especially when a couple of years earlier he'd done the exact same thing against Joe Joyce. On Saturday night in Riyadh, he had his, I would say, his biggest test, because Usyk is a former cruiserweight, as talented as he is, but Filip Hrgović is a 6'6" Croatian powerhouse and an Olympic bronze medalist who many people thought might stop Daniel Dubois in early rounds, because he punches harder than Usyk and probably harder than Joe Joyce. And yet Daniel Dubois, after a terrifyingly poor start where he decided to throw his face in the way of every single Hrgović right hand, he slashed 2 massive cuts above each eye, and the Croatian was stopped, looking completely spent in his corner. It was for an interim IBF world title, which doesn't really mean a great deal. Alexander Usyk is the undisputed king, and the rematch with Tyson Fury on December 21 will be for all of those belts once again. But it does mean now that his fight with Anthony Joshua looks set for Wembley, and we understand that Saudi Arabians who are bankrolling all these crazy, brilliant shows, and will do the same for this one, which we'll hope now will be an all-British card. They're going to try and break the record for a Wembley attendance, which would mean topping 94,000 that Tyson Fury did against Dillian Whyte in 2022. And it sounds like they're going to try and make it more than a boxing event, with some spectacular stuff going on around it. And we'll see a hell of a fight. If Daniel Dubois cannot keep his left hand higher up, and he gets hit with as many right hands by AJ as he did by Hrgović, you would think he would go over. The AJ that we saw obliterate Wallin and Francis Ngannou with that right hand would surely damage Daniel Dubois. But in the same breath, the Daniel Dubois, the power that 26-year-old boy has got, that man mountain, could give Anthony Joshua some real problems. So that's where we look like being in September, with an incredible undercard underneath there. Hamza Shiraz likely to be part of that after captaining Frank Warren's side to a 10-0 whitewash win over Eddie Hearn's Matchroom stable. I fancy he's in a massive fight on that show. I don't think he took any punishment at all really against Ammo Williams. Maybe a world title, maybe a Chris Eubank showbiz spectacular. But yeah, Daniel Dubois spoke out last night and said he's ready for AJ, bring it on. He'll destroy AJ. AJ had to sit through that whole event and watch his stable mates, his Matchroom team, who he'd sent a passionate rallying cry for in the morning, get completely turned over by Warren's team. It wouldn't have been a good night for AJ having to sit through and watch that as the poster boy for Matchroom. But he would have watched Dubois and seen weaknesses, and I think it'll be a sensational fight for British boxing. And thankfully, after lots of moaning about all of these fights being taken to the desert, it'll be happening on our doorstep.